The Silver Bullets are tired of waiting. They are ready to get back to work, but they're going to have to go 9 more days.
9 more days.
Before they can play again. Welcome to Snap Judgments. That is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. So Matt Patricia comes right in from the practice field, pencil still in the air. Sonny Styles, I'm not even going to take this tape off my hands, and he's up there. He's just pounding the podium. You've got Caden McDonald saying, I'm tired of waiting. Kenyatta Jackson, let's play a game right now. They felt like they were outplayed, Birm, because Indiana won that game. I don't think there was anything the Silver Bullets really needed to do that was all that wrong. Now, there were some plays that they gave up that Indiana made that they could have stopped, but they gave up 13 points, and they are as irritated as I can remember them.
It's a really proud group, and you know, to Sonny Styles' point, they did get outplayed by Indiana. Indiana gave up 10 points. Ohio State gave up 13. Indiana had 5 sacks. Ohio State certainly didn't. Ohio State's defense couldn't make the big plays at the end of the game when they needed to, and Fernando Mendoza's only drive where he completed the 2 long passes for the, down the field and then the touchdown. So, they were in a position, even though the offense was struggling, the defense was in a position to still win that game for Ohio State. And I think they take a lot of that on themselves and realize, hey, the onus, if you're in a team setting like this and the other side of the ball is not able, you can step up. And Ohio State, has all year long been suffocating people, and they just let Indiana breathe a little, and it cost them. And I think that just has them very, very angry, because that's really the message, I think, that was regularly relayed from the defensive group tonight, and they're pissed off. And Ryan Day talks about it, and he said it on Monday afternoon with the offense. But you don't really sense that from the offense as much. The offense is more like, we got to figure out what we did wrong. We got to figure out how to fix things. The defense is like, we know what we're doing, but we still got beat.
I think that's why I find it so interesting the way that they're talking and how angry they are, because they could, and I'm not saying that they should or even that they would, they could channel that frustration to the other side of the ball. Yeah. The Heisman Trophy winner and an undefeated Indiana scored 13 points. Ohio State's defense should have done enough, didn't do enough that they could have won the Big Ten championship and been the number 1 seed. But they're not doing that. They're saying, here's how much more we could have done. Here's the improvements that have to be made. This, that, the other thing that they can. Kenyatta Jackson, again, nobody is making an excuse for them. I'm just pointing out that he was held on at least 7 different occasions. And what did he say? Well, Sonny told me that I just can't let them hold me. All right.
Yeah.
So they're not blaming anybody else. They're taking the accountability that they lost, which is refreshing. And I would think terrifying if you're Miami.
But that's why when you look at this defense, you see these leaders like Sonny Styles telling Kenyatta Jackson, just don't let him hold you next time.
Is it that easy?
Instead of saying, yeah, man, that sucks, you were being held the whole time, that's what a normal response would be. But this team is not about excuses. They are not going to hear them. I grew up in a house where one thing I was always told was it could always be worse, right? And this defense has taken the reverse approach, which is we can always be better.
Sure.
And they've been as good as anybody historically ever this season. But you can see the smile on Matt Patricia's face when he gets asked, what else can you do? What else is out there? And they're not going to sit here and say, well, we've held Arvell back. We haven't really deployed Arvell and Caleb in all the ways we can yet. But that stuff is still out there. And we spent so much time in the last 2.5 weeks talking about what the offense can do extra. What more can the offense do? Are they going to step on the gas? We haven't watched this defense step on the gas in 3 months. This defense has not stepped on the gas since Texas.
Sure.
And so now you have 3 months of learning, 3 months of practice, 3 months of experience, 3 months of Matt Patricia figuring out who can do what. And I think, honestly, it just struck me now, we've spent so much time talking about, well, the offense is going to finally unleash this. I don't think this defense has unleashed things at all in the last month and a half. And I think that they were pretty conservative against Indiana. And I think they were pretty conservative against Michigan. I think they were pretty conservative against Illinois and Wisconsin. Everyone, so what happens if they finally let some things loose? Because you see the attitude of Caden McDonald tonight, right? They're not going to block me. I don't care. We're going to win a national championship. These are guys that really believe in who they are and really believe that the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball has put them in the right spots. And when you have that sort of symbiotic relationship between the coaches and the players, you don't know who's who when they step up at the podium.
Yeah, I hear everything that you're saying, and I almost wonder, though, what good does it do to mash the gas pedal? What good does it do to take chances and push the envelope more if you don't have to? Like, you said that they played really conservative against Indiana. I don't think you're wrong. They gave up 13 points to one of the best teams in the number one seed in the college football playoff. They were conservative against Michigan, and I know that team has their own issues on and off the field. They didn't give up a touchdown in that game. They were never in any jeopardy of losing to Illinois. They didn't give up a touchdown on the road against Washington. A lot of what Ohio State does, because they have such good athletes, because they have really good coaches, that's not just Matt Patricia, that is also Larry Johnson, that's James Laurinaitis, that's Matt Guerrieri, that's Tim Walton, this cohesive unit, I don't think that they are in a position where they have to push the envelope in, well, Arvell must make X amount of plays. He must do this. And Matt Patricia, I think he illustrated that really perfectly after practice on Monday night here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, where it was like, we're seeing opponents do different things to try and neutralize Arvell. And I think in the Indiana game specifically, and even the week before, that led to 3 times as many opportunities for Sonny Styles than he'd had throughout that first month of the season, where it was really flipped. It's like, well, Sonny's not getting enough attention. Well, they were, at that time, teams were cognizant of where the block O had to be, and they needed to take him away, and that opened up things for Arvell. So I think it can be both. Yeah. I don't disagree with you. It's like, well, they just need to blitz 15 times, or Arvell needs this many times to rush the passer. What they're doing is working. So it isn't the same situation as the offense.
No, it's not the same. It's a situation where if you think about how Indiana affected Julian Sayin, it's pressure, pressure, pressure. I'm not saying you pressure every time. I'm saying Arvell Reese in Carson Beck's face in 9 days from now is the best way to get turnovers.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm saying Carson Beck, if you give him the chance to do what Illinois was able to do and just stand back in the pocket, no pressure, and find a guy, Carson Beck has a lot better receivers than Illinois. Right, so like you're going to find something else. You're going to see all of the wrinkles, all of the encyclopedia of Matt Patricia. There's going to be things we haven't seen, and we spent all year talking about what haven't we seen from the offense. What's going to come next? Mm-hmm. Like that, I'm thinking about it from the defensive side. Like what could they have a lot they haven't unleashed, and even if it's simulated pressures, if it's double A gap blitzes, things we haven't seen at all from Ohio State. Like they haven't done any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
was it Grambling? It was like. Or Caleb Downs got like, why did it? Maybe that's just sitting there in the back pocket. You know, you didn't need to do that against Grambling.
Yeah, but like you want to put it out there, but then you haven't touched it in months. So I just think it's a really, it's fascinating to see the difference in approach from the offense and defense. And obviously we spent, an hour with the offensive players earlier in the day, and it's a lot more like reflective and self-evaluative and saying, well, what did we do? How can we fix this? Yeah. And the defense is like, I just want to murder someone.
Yeah, but again, that's because I don't think that they did anything wrong in that game.
No, they did enough to win. They know they did enough to win, but they also know, hey, we could have done one more. It could have been a tip ball. And I wanted to ask Lorenzo Styles, and I will probably try to find a way to get this question asked of him in the next week.
We will. We have a full team media day in Dallas.
What's more frustrating for a defensive player? When you get beat on a play where you're completely out of position and you didn't know what you were doing, or when you're right where you have to be and the Heisman Trophy winner just puts a ball in a spot that you can't defend?
Yeah.
Like, what's more frustrating? Because if you think about that Indiana game, as good as Ohio State played defensively, it really did come down to 2 balls. One on Jermaine Matthews, or 2 on Jermaine Matthews, really, and then 1 on Lorenzo Styles. And that's how you lose. Because if the other side of the ball isn't living up to what they need to do, that's how you lose. So, like, I understand them being frustrated because in their minds, like, well, yeah, we played well enough to win, but if we stop that one play, we still win. And so that's what makes a team great. That's what makes this defense great. It's like they're saying, yeah, but we could have done one more thing.
I do think that is what's so impressive about the confidence that this Ohio State defense plays with, the swagger, the standard that it holds itself to, because you and I have talked to Sonny Styles after games like the last,
4 years?
4 years in a row. And every single time after his best games, after his worst games, the answer is always the same, that he is looking at the 5 or 6 plays that he didn't make. That is how you continually improve. That is how you strive to be an elite defense. That's how you win national championships like that banner over here, or how you add another college football playoff appearance that's already up in here and reflected for 2025 in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So I understand and appreciate all that. And I'm not trying to absolve them from anything that happened in Indianapolis. And they're not trying to do that either, which is what's so important, because the fact that they're angry and that they're already, looking at what happened on Saturday for Miami and the success that they had against Texas A&M and Mark Fletcher's ability to run the football, and that they are rattling off, what Carson Beck has done well in his career, or then like Sonny and Lorenzo are both talking about Malachi Toney and the attention they have to pay, and they know everything that he's done. That tells you the level of attention that Ohio State is paying, not just to itself and things that it can do better, but how in depth they have already studied Miami. So I think all of that, like you seemed at Roosters earlier on Monday, like a little bit stressed out already. I just don't understand how Miami is going to be able to solve this Ohio State defense, personally.
I mean, no one solved it all year. That's what makes them so impressive. But I think now you've added maybe a chip to the shoulder here because of the offensive struggles against Indiana. I think that there's a lot of conversation right now about how can Ohio State score on Miami's defense. And really, had Ohio State won that game 13-10, this would be a game about these are the two best defenses, maybe talent for talent, pound for pound in the country, and it becomes a clash of like two teams that are trying to say we're the best unit. Mm-hmm. And right now, this defense is not going to get talked about enough outside of this building. There's a lot of people in Columbus who are going to say, yeah, but can Miami score on Ohio State? But I don't think you hear that nationally because everyone's question is, Ruben Bain, is he going to destroy Phillip Daniels? Is he going to ruin his life? Like, that's the question you're getting. And so people don't really, there's no respect being shown to this Ohio State defense because they gave up 13 points to Indiana and lost the game. And I think there's justifiably a chip on the shoulder of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, if they give up 13 points to Miami, A, that would qualify as a surprise to me, but B, they're still going to win that game.
You'd like to think so?
I don't believe that there's a world where Ohio State's offense with a month to prepare, and even with all the changes going on, which we talked about earlier on the live show at Roosters, if you missed that, talking about Brian Hartline, if you're wondering why we're not breaking all that down and you missed that show, we did the snap judgments combined with the live show earlier coming out of the offensive media day here. But, you hold somebody to one touchdown again, which is what I think is the standard for this team and what is likely to happen against Miami. They're just going to win. And I think that the defense travels, the defense wins championship, those cliches that you take, like there's not a better defense in the country than Ohio State, period. And now you have shoveled on extra fuel to the fire. And that seems like a good combination. Maybe I'm overselling it. Yeah. That's just how especially when you listen to them talk about it and combine that with watching them all season.
Well, that's, I think, for anybody on the outside looking in, again, the people who are watching our show, they understand this Ohio State program better than anybody in the national media does. But if you think about the folks who are the national folks who are enjoying tonight's press conference and joining it via Zoom and dialing in, and they're getting to talk to Sonny Styles, who's an All-American, and Caden McDonald, who's an All-American, and Kenyatta Jackson, who's an All-Big Ten player and potentially a first-round pick working himself into one. And then you take a step back and you go, we didn't hear from Caden Curry. We didn't hear from Marvell Reese. We didn't hear from Caleb Downs. You didn't hear from arguably the three best players on the defense this season. The three most impact. I mean, obviously Caden McDonald is in that conversation, but if you can make an argument that Caden Curry was the best defensive lineman on this team. Like, you can make that argument. And then you don't hear from him, but you don't hear from Caleb. You don't hear from Marvell. And there's a lot that these guys can just flip the rock over and be like, now go get this guy. So it's really a fascinating group. And Matt Patricia deserves so much credit for what he's done, the relationships he's built. It is not easy to walk into a program like this and ingratiate yourself and become immediately not just like one of the coaches, but like the coach. This defense, we've been around this program exactly the same number of years doing this job. I've never seen a defensive player, let alone all of the defensive players and offensive players, reference a guy and talk about a guy like they do Matt Patricia.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question about that. There was a name that came up a lot tonight, and I was not stunned to hear it, but it stood out how many times Edric Houston was name dropped by the rest of the Ohio State defensive players, thinking about what might still be in the cards for him down the road, whether that's now being fully healthy, whether that's more comfort in the 3-tech. I don't know. But I don't think it was by mistake that all of them kept pointing to that. And I would say for me personally, perhaps I overdid it going into August. Too much, too soon, expectations too high. probably did based on the way he performed and the injury setting him back and all that. But it's happening again. It's not me doing it. That's them doing it.
Well, because we've talked about it all year long. Edric Houston is a guy who was just learning to play 3-tech. Now you got a full season, another full season behind him. He only played 3-tech half the season a year ago. Like he should be elevating. And honestly, the thing is about a game like this, your superstars, and even guys who are potential superstars, and Edric Houston is a potential superstar, even if his numbers didn't equate to that this year, like physical talent, all of the tools. That's a guy who, if you're going to beat Miami, if you're going to beat this Miami offensive line, it has to be guys like Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. It has to be your 5 stars. It has to be your leaders. And so Edric Houston, if he's elevating like that, and whether it was Tywan Malone who pushed him, whether it's the injury stuff, whether it's just experience, whatever it is, that light, we saw it in November, like something snapped. Ryan Day talked about it out here in one of his lightning rounds. Like there was a moment, something happened for Edric where it clicked. And it's like, hey, this is on me. No one else is to blame for me not playing but me.
Yeah.
And once you are over that hill as a player in this program, like the sky is the limit. And, Caden McDonald spent a lot of time on Monday night talking about how rare it is that he's a unanimous All-American as a defensive tackle. It hasn't happened at Ohio State in 55 years. And Edric Houston has the potential to be a better player than Caden McDonald down the road. Like he does have that potential. Now he's a different type of player, certainly, but like if you're Edric and you're watching what Caden McDonald's doing, and he's a guy who grew up 10 miles from you in Georgia, and you're both at Ohio State, and you're watching this guy dominate and be the guy everyone around the country is talking about as the best defensive tackle in the nation, and you're going, well, crap, I'm getting benched. Like there's only 2 ways that goes. That either sends you up or it sends you down, and Edric is taking it the right way.
Believe it or not, that is all of the media availability that is scheduled on campus for Ohio State before they leave for Texas on Sunday. They will practice again on Tuesday. The players will get a couple days off. They will be back in Columbus to practice on Friday afternoon. That will be open. I will already be in Texas.
Berm
won't be there in there. Event. There will be coverage on LettermanRow.com from Spencer Holbrook and Mick Walker if you need that there. And then television's Adam King will also be there with all the photography.
And the 10 TV folks.
Photography and Twitter, social media coverage that you could possibly want. So that will be Friday. Practice again Saturday. The team will, I believe, practice here on Sunday before they fly down. They get there on Sunday night, and then it is back into the Cotton Bowl. So there will still be plenty of coverage, of course, all week long and throughout the holidays on the Austin Birm Show. Yes, you do.
I think next Monday's edition of The Beat should be a Cotton Bowl only mailbag. So you have 5 days, America, because we're going to both get to Dallas on Sunday. We're going to sit down. We're going to read some questions, talk about the game for Monday morning. I think that's the best way to do it.
A Monday mailbag?
A Monday mailbag.
Wow.
As opposed to a boring blitz, because, you and Zach broke down the Miami game.
Give Zach the holidays off.
So let's dive into a mailbag. So you, America, have 5 days to get in your questions to theaustinandbermshow@gmail.com and make them pop, make them snappy. We're going to talk about this game, Ohio State-Miami recruiting, Ohio State-Miami history, whatever. But make it about that game. Next Monday's mailbag will be all about the Cotton Bowl.
I love it when you use that alliteration. It's so important.
Monday Musings.
Monday Musings mailbag.
Monday Mailbags Musing?
I don't know.
Mailbags, Mondays Musings. I don't know. I lost it.
It could be all of those things. But we'll have a Talkin' Tuesday Answers with Adam version because there's not a press conference tomorrow. That will be on The Beat. That's presented by the Waterworks on Tuesday. And then, it can't be stocks. I don't know what we're going to do on Wednesday. We are actually going to take a rare Thursday off for Christmas to celebrate that with our families. But of course, right back at it on Friday and then getting ready to travel down to Dallas for everything related to the Cotton Bowl. But that's the last Snappy J of the week.
Of the year. Nope.
Not even close.
From Ohio.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more Snappy
It's the last Snappy J from Ohio in the year 2025.
It is. And we can already just go ahead and thank you for spending that time with us on 97.1 The Fan, 10 TV, and 10 TV Plus. Snappy J's are done. He's Berm. I'm Austin. We'll talk to you later.